Remembering Gandhi. In January 2010, leaders in South Africa held a ceremony to gather the ashes of Mohandas Gandhi, the political and philosophical leader of India's early 20th century independence movement. Now, 6 decades after his death, Gandhi's philosophies of peace and equal rights for all people continue to inspire. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on October 2, 1869 in Porbana, India. In 1888, at the age of 18, Gandhi moved to London, England, to attend a law school. He returned to India in 1981 to practice law, but experienced a little success as a lawyer in his home country. In April 1893, he accepted a position to practice in South Africa. In May 1893, Gandhi arrived in Durban, South Africa, ready to work as a lawyer in the nation's Indian community. At that time, parts of South Africa was ruled by the British Empire, and despite having a black majority, the nation was governed, often oppressively, by a white minority. Many Indian citizens, many who had migrated to South Africa in the late 18s to work as indentured servants on sugar plantations, were subject to racial prejudice. Soon after his arrival in South Africa, Gandhi experienced first-hand discrimination against Indians in the country when he was removed from a train for refusing to leave a segregated whites-only compartment. Appalled by his treatment, Gandhi committed himself to the fight for the human and civil rights for the Indians and all disenfranchised people in South Africa. Gandhi believed the best way to bring about change in society was to practice satyagraha, a concept that exposed the tenets of passive resistance and non-violent protest as ways to effective social and political reform. Gandhi would practice this philosophy throughout his life. In 1906, Gandhi employed satyagraha in response to South Africa law requiring Indians to carry identity documents unfingerprinted. Any Indian could not produce proper identification upon request could be fined and sent to prison. Gandhi encouraged Indians in South Africa to openly disobey the act by petitioning the major government offices and burning identification papers. Over the next 8 years, Gandhi continued to outprint law that discriminated against Indians and other immigrant workers in South Africa. In 1915, Gandhi returned to India, where he would begin a peaceful campaign for independence from the British Empire, which had controlled India's economic and political landscape since the middle of the 18th century. By the dawn of the 20th century, the British government exerted more control than ever over India, instituting taxes policy that ultimately limited the rights of the Indian people. Gandhi galvanized the independence movement that would eventually force the British from the country. He traveled the country, becoming involved in myriad local and national concerns, such as promoting workers' rights and encouraging religious harmony between India's Hindus and Muslim populations. As Gandhi's reputation for social activism grew, he was given the title of Mahatma, the Great Soul. In 1921, Gandhi became president of the Indian National Congress, a group that remonstrated with the British government about the unfair policy in India, called for the complete independence and sovereignty for India. During this time, he intimidated the cooperation movement, encouraged India to become economically self-reliant, and calling for large-scale boycotts of British products. Gandhi also urged citizens not to cooperate with British-controlled local governments and asked parents to remove children from British-run schools. He enjoined his followers against violent means, believing peaceful progress were more effective. Despite being jailed numerous times by the British authorities, Gandhi continued to engage in acts of civil disobedience. In 1930, Gandhi implored Indian citizens to stop paying taxes to the British government, particularly to the tax on salt. Great Britain has a complete monopoly on salt in the country, and it was illegal for people to create their own. Gandhi resolved to protest the tax by making natural salt from seawater, and on March 12, 1930, set out on foot for a 240-mile, 386 kilometers march to the Indian coastal village of Dandi. Thousands joined him along the way. On April 5, 1930, the group arrived at Dandi, where the protesters defied the salt tax by simply collecting plums of sea salt. Although the Salt March did not bring about the repeal of salt tax, it brought the worldwide attention on India's struggle for independence. In 1942, following the outbreak of the World War II, Gandhi and the Indian National Congress passed the Quit India Resolution, which demanded the British Parliament grant India complete and immediate independence. In 1947, Parliament heeded for the demands and passed the Indian Independence Act, which would grant India the full independence from the British Empire on August 15th of that same year. Only a few months later, January 30, 1948, Gandhi was assassinated by a Hindu nationalist who was enraged by Gandhi's message of peaceful coexistence between India's Hindu and Muslim population. In the years since Gandhi's death, his cry of nonviolence has spread across the world. The concept of Satyagraha was inspired by many civil rights leaders, including Martin Luther King Jr. and his work in the American civil rights movement. Nelson Mandela, the leader of the South Africa anti-apartheid movement, said this about Gandhi: "In a world driven by violence and strife, Gandhi's message of peace and nonviolence holds the key to human survival in the 21st century." The Associated Press contributes to the story. And this is the end of reading. Now go to my definition. Enjoined means to forbid or prohibit something. Remonstrated means to say or plead in protest, objection, or disapproval. Myriad means numerous. Appurge means to assail by criticism, argument, or action. Espoused means to take up something or support something, such as the cause or idea. This is the end definition. Read about remembering Gandhi and achieve the success of the recipe. And my name is Amy. Thank you for listening.